Hello, welcome to Down the Rabbit Hole. My name is Breezy. I'm your host today, and we are getting over a cold, so you'll have to bear with me. I do have my trusty water with me to help keep me hydrated because hydration is important, and drinking water is important as well. Um, if you're new here, hit that like button, ring that bell for notification. Also, please subscribe, help a girl out. Today we are going to be talking about the Weinkauf Hotel Fire in Atlanta, Georgia, and we're going to talk briefly about the history of Atlanta. Now, here's the thing. Atlanta to me is the southernmost northern city in the US. We may disagree on a lot of things in this country, but I think this is one thing we can all agree on. From what I have been told, it takes an hour to get from Atlanta to Atlanta. Pretty much like Nashville here. Um, Even Birmingham like that and Huntsville. Now we know that Atlanta is the capital and the most populated city in Georgia, and we also know that it's situated among the foothills of the Appalachian as well, and it is originally founded as a boundary of the major state-sponsored railroad, and it soon became the convergence points among several railroads, spurring its rapid growth. Now the Now, the largest was on the Western Atlantic Railroad between from what is now named Atlanta is derived from signifying the city's growing reputation as a major hub for transportation. Now, during the American Civil War, it served as strategically important role in the Confederacy until it was captured in 1864 and the city was almost entirely burned to the ground during General William T. Sherman's march to the sea. However, the city rebounded dramatically in the post-war era and quickly became a national industrial center and the unofficial capital of the New South. And after World War II, it also became a manufacturing technology hub. And during the 1950s and 60s, it later became a major operating center of the American Civil Rights Movement with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Ralph Abernathy, and many other locals becoming prominent figures in the movement leadership. In the modern era, Atlanta remained a major center of transportation, while Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport became the busiest traffic in 1998. Um, Now, I want to talk briefly about the Native American settlements. Um, Now, for thousands of years prior to the arrival of European settlers in North Georgia, the indigenous Creek people um, and their ancestors inhabited the area. Standing Peachtree, a creek village where Peachtree Creek flows into to Chattahoochee, what was the closest Native American settlement to what is now Atlanta. Through the early 19th century, European Americans systematically engrossed the creek of northern Georgia, forcing them out from 1802 to 1825. And the Creeks were forced to leave the area in 1821 under the Indian Removal Act by the federal government and the European American settlers arriving in the following year. Um, but yes. Now, here's the thing. Atlanta is on my travel bucket list. I will never drive in Atlanta. You couldn't pay me enough to drive in Atlanta. I probably would have to take something before I become a passenger in Atlanta, but because we were going to go to Savannah a couple of years ago, and when I tell you I systematically planned a route that would go outside of Atlanta, I did that because I didn't want to have to drive in Atlanta. What can I say? I'm a girl who knows what I want. Now let's talk about the real reason I clicked on this episode. Now, the Rheinkopf Hotel fire of December 7th, 1946 was the deadliest hotel fire in American history. It killed 119 occupants, while the hotel's original owners were located on 176 Peachtree Street in Atlanta, Georgia. And the Weinkauf Hotel was advertised as absolutely fireproof. So kind of like the Titanic was labeled the unsinkable. So while the hotel's steel structure was indeed protected against the effects of the fire. The interior finishes were combustible, and the building's exit arrangements consisted um, of single stairways serving on all 15 floors, and all of the hotel's occupants have the fire's origins. And the third floor were trapped, and the fire survivors either were rescued from the upper story windows or jumped from the nets held by firemen. Now, a number of victims jumped to their deaths, and a photograph of one survivor won the 1947 Pulitzer Prize for photography in the fire, which followed the June 5th, 1946 Salal Hotel fire in Chicago with 61 fatalities, and the June 9th, also 1946, Canfield Hotel fire in Dubuque, Iowa, with 19. Now, its first significant changes in North American building codes, most significantly requiring multiple protective means of egress and closing fire resistant doors to guest rooms. Now, the hotel itself, now known as the Ellis Hotel, opened in 1913 as one of the tallest buildings in Atlanta, Georgia. And the steel frame structure was a lot of measuring. By 70 feet, bounded by Peachtree Street, Ellis Street, and an alley, with approximately 4,300 give or take square feet per floor. Now, guest rooms extended from the third to the 15th floor, while 15 rooms on a typical floor, corridors, and on a guest floor were arranged in an H shape, um, with two elevators and upward flights of the stairs opening into the cross halls and opposing downward to the stairs of a single landing from the H. A single conservatory of non-combustible construction was not enclosed with the fire-resistant doors. While the use of multiple stairways were becoming common practices in the tall buildings, the Atlanta Building Code of 1911 permitted buildings on lots of less than 5,000 square feet, um, to have a single stairway, and the steel structure was protected by the structural clay tile of the concrete fireproofing. Now, the hotel was touted in the advertisement on its stationery as absolutely fireproof. Now, interior partitioners include the walls between the corridors and guest rooms, while hollow clay tile covered with plasters. Now, room doors with 1.5-inch wood or removable transom handles made to each for ventilation between the rooms and corridors that were closed by a wood panel less than 0.5 inches. Um, the corridor walls finished by were finished with a painted burlap fabric extending over the wainscot's height, and guest rooms were finished with as many as 7 layers of wallpaper. The hotel had a central fire alarm system, many of which operated from the front desk and the sandpipe of each floor. There was no automatic sprinkler systems there. Now, the hotel was within 2 blocks of the Atlanta Fire and Rescue Department, and engine and ladders and companies one of which they were able to um within the 30 seconds of the building. Now let's talk about the fire, okay? The fire's point of origin was on the third floor, west hallway, where a mattress and a chair had been temporarily placed in the corridor, close to a stairway on the fourth floor. One theory suggests that a dropped cigarette may have ignited the mattress or other combustibles in the corridor. Now, the fire was first noticed about 3:15 by a bellboy. Um, by a bellboy who was noticed about 3:15 by on the fifth floor to help a guest who was trapped. However, the first and only call to the fire department was made at 3:42. by the night manager, who was reported to have attempted to warn guests by telephone. The building fire alarm was not sounded, although by that time no escapes were possible in the upper floors in any case, and the survivor recounted being awakened by and made aware of the fire by the sounds of people screaming. Now, the first the first engine and the latter of the communities were arrived in within 30 seconds of the call. By the time people were already jumping out the windows and the fire department could extend only part of the way, were rescued. Um, and everything. Now, fire spread was initially hampered by their stair arrangement. While the stairs were not closed off, the configurations placed ascending from the descending runs from around the corner from each other. Now, keeping the fire and the hot gas from quickly ascending to the stair, um, it did not spread throughout the enclosed elevator shafts, nor through the laundry or mail chutes. One transoms began between the room and the corridors emitted fresh air for combustion, eventually creating a flue-like effect with the fire climbing to all but the two top floors. Now, once established in the corridors, the fire fled on the burlap wall covering that ignited the room of the transoms. Now, the firefighters were unhampered, um, and some cases injured by falling bodies. A number of guests tied their bed sheets together to try to descend. Others misjudged the 10-foot wide alley between the rear of the Winecoff and the Mortgage Guarantee Building. The Atlanta Fire Department mustered 385 firefighters, 22 engine companies, and 11 ladder trucks, four of which were aerial units of the scene. Now, a second alarm would was sounded at 3:44 a.m. A third was at 3:49, with general alarms all available. Um, all available. Now the hotel. Now let's talk about the casualties, okay? Now the hotel was especially crowded that night for a combination of reasons. People from all over the state who traveled to Atlanta to go Christmas shopping in the city, others who had come to hit Disney. Of the 304 guests in the hotel that night, 119 died. About 65 were injured. And the hotel's original owners who lived in the apartment in the hotel died in the apartment. Yes, died in the apartment. Now, how does this have an impact on fire codes? Well, the fire coming from the hills of the Solal Hotel fire had a major impact on building codes. Now, Truman, in response to the LaSalle and Wyckoff fires, both fires had highlighted the problems associated with the unprotected stairs originating. Stairs. Now, the fire led the incorporation of wartime research into inflammability buildings in the code. There were memorials held as well, and it made and Georgia Historical Marker of the Winecoff Fire as well. That is it for this episode. I will talk to y'all next time as we talk about the Kennesaw House. Y'all have a great day.